I don't think it started out to be a project, but we realized we couldn't sustain it. It was physically punishing. You know, we were all going deaf and nervous, and, you know, it took you a couple days to come down off a gig, and also you couldn't hear for a couple, 3 days. So we didn't think we could make a career out of taking that on the road or even playing venues around Austin.
Our model as far as the punk thing was the Sex Pistols, and they broke up
Immediately.
shortly after we saw them. And so we were kind of like, well, that's what you do. You come in and make a big noise and go away.
And I remember the first gig we did at Raul's, we were one of the ones that made it the punk rock club, probably along with CBGB's and a couple others. People said, oh yeah, they're from this band and that band, but they're doing this thing. So we had a lot of musicians from other arenas show up to see us play, and it's kind of intimidating, you know?
I just remember Patti Smith getting on stage and then turning her back to the audience, and she had some wire cutters and clipping off a few wires off of her guitar and then turning around like, wow, how badass is that?
We opened for the Ramones and saw the Sex Pistols, and as the record company guy from Riding Easy says, he said, and so you thought you'd play fast and loud because you could? And I said, yeah. Very few bands with 2 bass players.
Yeah, well, these guys, we kind of knew each other from playing in bands that sort of overlapped and stuff. And I had cut off all of my hair. I had this little punk rock girlfriend that said, you know, I'm going to make you look like Johnny Rotten. And I'm like, well, if it pleases you, then just go ahead. So I got real, you know, spiky short haircut. And I guess these guys said, well, this guy can play bass and he looks like a punk rocker.
And Austin was such a smaller place back then, and the music scene had more of a focus on the university area, and everything was much closer together, and it's hard to remember what a smaller place it was.
The cool thing about Raul's when it first started, it was like there was no set idea of what punk rock was, especially in Austin.
It was still so new that people were experimenting with what it was.
It was just all the weird people that didn't fit in anywhere else converged on this place once bands started playing there. Later on, once the whole style kind of became codified, then, you know, you'd see people that looked like punk rockers. But at first, it was just weird people that didn't fit in anywhere else.
And you'd never see them in daily life. Yeah. Raul's was right across the street from the University of Texas. And then once it started taking out, it says, where do these people live? Where are they coming from? But it gave kind of rise to, you can be anything you want to be.
There was like a really wide variety of like weird kind of like, at that time, non-pigeonholable bands. Right. And like, yeah, and the Skunks, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that, speaking to our reception there, we were kind of vilified by a lot of the Raul's crowd because we were actually working musicians that were playing in other venues. And you know, we were talking about in the kitchen, you know, that we were sort of harassed by saying, oh, you're musicians. Yeah. And like, you know, punk rock has always been a lot more of like a social phenomena than a musical phenomena anyway. So being a musician didn't necessarily qualify us.
We didn't take it seriously. Like a lot of the bands that came after us were really deadly serious about being intellectual punk rockers.
But the guys were speaking about, you know, things being thrown at the band as a sign of, you know, acceptance or whatever. And that was one of the reasons why we were so loud, is because in Raul's, we had a huge sound system and played really loud because it helped keep the crowd from getting too close to us, especially at the beginning when there was like, you know, glass pitchers and mugs and stuff like that, and ashtrays.
I had read a thing in a Guinness Book of World Records, loudest band in the world, Deep Purple, you know, 137 decibels. And our idea was to break this record that I had read. You know, I thought, man, we can break this one running away.
And the name, the Bodysnatchers, did you see the descent?
But I really got it from what's his name? Bootsy Collins from P-Funk, Parliament Funkadelic. He's going off in the background while Clinton's singing. He said, swift-lipping, loose-hipping, body-snatching motherfucker, is what he said. And I thought, yeah, that's it. Bodysnatchers. But I really got it from Bootsy Collins.
Anytime you would read something about the early Austin punk scene, there would be nothing about the Bodysnatchers up until recently.
Recently, the Chronicle,
yeah, the writer named Tim Stagel.
And
He got with Tom and got the whole story about how we were such a early part of it, but like nobody that was writing about it subsequently was actually there in the very beginning. So the fact that we broke up so quickly, we just kind of disappeared from Austin music history for a while.
All the LA punk bands, and all have been legitimized. You've got Pat Smear in the the Foo Fighters and things, but all these guys, they were playing our stuff before these shows, and had we known that it was popular, we probably would have made the effort to come out and do it out here, out in LA, but we had no clue, and it was gone, and everybody was. Yeah, we had.
They were selling these things for a lot of money out there.
Yeah, at record conventions, and I think that's, you realize that this was a collector record. It was selling for a couple $100 because there weren't any. And we're talking about how liberating it is now that there's no record company guys. You don't have some little guy talking you into something, recording something that's going to make him money. You can do whatever you want, but you don't make much money on it. We recorded that near the end, so most of our gigs were probably in '77, and then that was recorded right around the turn of '78.
July '78 or something. We played probably just through the summer of that year.
It's a matter of months.
Yeah.
A matter of months.
Yeah,
we
6
were only
months or
together
something.
A matter of months. We can't keep this thing together, and I think everybody went, well, here, because not that we didn't like doing it, it's that we could, like I said, we couldn't speak or hear or move around after we unleashed it. It was a thing, and it sounds corny. Everybody's like, let's fire it up and see if we can control it. But that was basically the name of the game. Mm-hmm. The songs were fast enough and loud and violent enough that there was no arrangement. It was just hang on, and
I think we played 7 gigs.
1, 2, 3,
Someone 7 or 8.
I think everybody saw something in it, and it wasn't punk rock attitude, and it wasn't the musicality of it. It was the blunt force of it, I think.
And Jay had basically the studio in Austin.
Yeah.
With-
Pecan Street, I guess.
Yeah, Pecan Street studio. And so we were all friends, and we kind of talked each other into actually going in and recording.
Everybody recorded there. Jerry Jeff recorded there. Joe Ely recorded there. Eric Johnson recorded there. And then you sold this to Christopher Cross, to Chris Geppert. Well, there wasn't any delicate mixing to be done, so he decided the best way to capture it would be 2-track live and get the full grain, the full fabric of what we were doing. So we were doing it like we were doing sets back to back, which was tiring because it blew us out to do a 30 or 40 minute set. So doing it over 3 or 4 times and we were kind of getting the hang of it. And this is 5 songs that were in sequence, that were the original songs that we did, and he clipped those. Those were done in sequence. Just like the record is, we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But I think that's one of the salient characteristics of the record, is it is live, and although it was recorded so well, you had it mic'd up good and everything, so it came out with the same quality that you would have had with a multi-track recording that you worked on for weeks.
Well, it all started because I was a fan. I was a huge fan of the band, so I knew the material backwards and forwards. I came to as many shows as I could. I had a studio, and so there was just a point where I said, we got to document this band, and made the decision to do a 2-track head-on live, because I felt like if I would have done multi-track, we had all the 24 tracks, all that stuff. I felt like if we went in there and did it with 24-track, I'd fuck it up. What's so great about the record is not how I produced it or whatever, or engineered it. is because the musicians in the band were so tight and so great. I just mixed it as we kind of went along, and
You mixed it live. You were
Yeah.
I mixed it live,
riding
yeah.
the faders.
How long did it take to record the record?
4 hours.
4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah, it's right here on the line here
notes.
somewhere.
From 2
From 10 to 2.
Yeah.
Absolutely live, no overdubs, nothing. Yeah, just,
That was nothing.
And of course, that was a characteristic of a lot of the punk music was the songs were very short. It happened, but somehow I had the master tapes from your studio, and they sat on a shelf in the closet up there for 25 years. And then one day I just decided that once digital music had evolved over the years, and you could digitize stuff, old tapes, I said, we got to digitize this.
We sent it off to Nashville to be mastered, and unprompted, the two guys that did the lacquers, you know, and stuff like that, they wrote cryptic messages on the, and one of them is called, "Did you take the punk rock acid test?" And the other one says, we can look on there and see what it is. They scratched it in the outro margin like a cryptic thing in a Beatles album, you know, The Walrus is Paul or whatever. They did it.
What's up with that? He goes,
So we didn't know if they were being sarcastic or if they loved it. We had no clue. You fight and scratch and solicit all your life. Will you listen to our demo? Can we make a record? Would you sign us? And after 46 years, when somebody says, yeah, well, there's probably not a lot of money in it unless you get a commercial, but we like this. We have a record company that has, you know, seminal versions of early metal, thrash, and punk rock. And hey, this is a vintage punk rock record that still sounds good.
We didn't hardly do anything to the record. We didn't try to make it a modern record. We didn't try to build the bass up or anything. We did hardly anything. Like on a 1 to 10, we maybe did like 1/5 of changing to it just to balance it out, and that was it. So what you're hearing is as pure as possible. It was pure from the recording, from the playing to the recording, to the tape, to the mastering, and there it is.
Yeah.
So the whole process was a pure organic feel to it.
took 47 years though.
It took 47 years.
I just remember at the New Atlantis, we were reaching the climax of our set, and you walked over to me and said, "Back off." And then you took your guitar off and just started bashing it into the walls and floors.
There was so much debris on the stage at that point. I think there was like beer and popcorn and stuff, and you like slipped and fell on your ass while you were destroying the guitar. I'd have to say the last gig, the ARC gig, was just really great because it was the first time we played for a huge crowd of people, and it was, you know, it just felt like the culmination of what we wanted to do, where the band was really good and there was actually people digging it, you know, the crowd was really receptive, and that was kind of unique to the whole history of the band because we were so obscure up until that point. And that was just kind of an accident that we were, you know, played a gig that was, you know, a big party. Everybody would flock to that place for parties, you know, so it wasn't like everybody came to see us. It was like just a lot of people there, and everybody was ready for a party.
Well, I was unlocking the practice room at one time, and this guy came up, kind of walked out of a vacant lot, and he said, "I live back here on this other street." He said, "You know what?" He said, "We can hear, you know, you guys play loud enough, we can hear this." And he said, "I really like the soul band. The funk stuff is great. The rock band is really great." He said, "But if you know this other band, he didn't realize this was the same people. If you know or can get a message to these guys, the Bodysnatchers," he said, "when they play, it said, it wakes my baby up. The clock falls off the wall. My wife starts bitching, and my life is miserable." He said, "I like all of it except that." He said, "That is just super, super annoying. So if you could tell them, if they could find another practice place, I'd really appreciate it." And I thought, wow, here's a really sincere blue-collar redneck guy, working class guy, just telling me, setting it straight about what the Bodysnatchers was all about, noise and chaos.
I guess my favorite sort of event in the Bodysnatchers was making the record, because that was my first time ever in a real recording studio. And of course, that really, I was dazzled by that and the big board and everything, but also completely surprised by how it came out. I had no expectation it would come out the way it did and as good as it did. And I'll never forget making that.
But my most visual remembrance, which is great, Tom, going to stores, Goodwill and stuff, he had this shag carpet, lime green
I remember that.
coat on and his fuzz tone duct tape to his leg.
Oh, I forgot I taped the fuzz tone to my
It
leg.
was just great. I mean, it's just beautiful.
Honestly, the reason that I'm wearing hearing aids right now and the fact that I can't remember it very well is evidence that I was actually there.
Describe the Bodysnatchers in one word.
Fun.
Loud.
A lot of fun.
Intense.
Exhilarating.
Loud.
See that girl over there, she don't know me and I don't care. It's on her mind, I just can't say it. I'm gonna love her anyway. I'm gonna love her anyway. Oh! I don't know her, she don't know me. What I want, I take for free. I'm taking love, I tear your dress. I'm such an upper mess. Ooh, I'm such an upper mess. When I'm with you, I feel so strong. I know you're right, I feel wrong. I come to play, I love to touch.